Okay, our next poet, of course, is our feature. She is former host of this program, publisher of Down in the Dirt and Children, Churches, and Daddies. However, the vast majority of the poems in those publications are not about daddies, children, or churches. One thing is certain, if you have ever featured here, she has you on videotape unless you asked her not to videotape your performance. Good chance you are, even if you were not a feature. And so she comes to us all the way from Austin, Texas. Please welcome Janet Kuypers.
Hi there. Thank you very much. I suppose I should have had my phone. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I could start by saying that I've decided to not read anything from my Chicago days for you guys because that's all old news and you've all seen it before. But I have pieces from Austin, Texas. I have written pieces for just poetry readings as well as for shows. I have a collection of them for this for you, and if there is anybody that is worthy, I've got 2 copies of a chapbook of it for anybody that would like to come up and grab it. This just in, that would happen to be me. And I've got a select few pieces from 2 new books. Proof copies are available of them. They're only $10 each. I explained to the people who have already bought copies here that if you can be attracted to somebody's pheromones, you might be attracted to their words, or the ideas in those words, or those memes. I thank you, John Yakov, for coming up with the word pheromemes. I've got 2 books called Pheromemes, 2015-2017 show poems, and Pheromemes 2015-2017 show poems. These are ones I've done in features in Austin, Texas. They're entirely different books. They've got all different poems in them, and I've got proof copies, and they are all available for only $10. You don't even have to pay the shipping and handling from the printer. If you get them right now, I can even label, like I did for these people, oh, this is proof number 2 from this printer, and sign it for you if you'd like. In the meantime, I'm going to share with you a combination of both of those. And this first one was from a recent show of mine, actually, my most recent show in the beginning of this month, for a feature all about peace. And so I did a poem that was called Protecting Peace Can Put You in Prison. The first Nobel Prize was granted in 1901. The first Nobel Prize Peace Laureate to die in prison was Karl von Ossietzky, detained by Nazi Germany. He died in prison in 1938. But there's a new death. Do not fret, because peace can always be squashed in any millennia. Do you remember the Tiananmen Square riots that happened back in like 1989? Or at least do you remember that iconic photo of a student standing in front of a tank? Well, the students didn't battle the Chinese government on their own. They first had to have some help from Liu Xiaobo. This man for peace was revered for his work, but the Chinese government didn't like him, and they stopped him in 2008 because he was drafting and promoting a manifesto promoting peaceful political change. So, for this, the Chinese government imprisoned him for subversion. Yes, for subversion. This man was sentenced to 11 years in prison, and he was granted, while in prison, the Nobel Peace Prize. In Oslo, they even had an empty chair there to actually honor their imprisoned man of honor. And now the Chinese government bears responsibility more for imprisoning a Nobel Peace Laureate who only promoted peaceful coexistence and peaceful political change, but also for failure to properly diagnose and treat his ailments, because on July 13th, this imprisoned Peace Prize winner died in detention of liver cancer at age 61. And sure, we can look around the room and think that we are nice to other people and that we respect other people. And we may think that as we look around the room, other people feel the same way toward us. And it's wonderful to surround yourself with people like you, who think like you. Because when you keep yourself in that little bubble, everything can seem just fine. But it's only when you see those who choose to fight, those who are trounced upon and downtrodden only because they support a peaceful coexistence, that staying with supporters is seldom the solution. Peace with the ones you choose to know is one thing. Peace with a mortal enemy is another, when they decide that you are at fault for some unknown reason. So, maybe the key to promoting peace is to not share your ideas with those like-minded souls you're near, but to find the people least like you, religiously, racially, politically, and just extend your hand in peace, and then see who will take your hand. Am I not hearing things? There's no music. Oh. Thank you very much. I didn't know. Was that supposed to... Should we get something else? I think I'll move my phone. That was not good.
Is that part of the act?
Yes, apparently it was. And I don't know where my phone is, which is my audio. No, that's audio is from. Well, I happen to have a larger print from them. Oh, but this thing is falling apart, so how would I have this? There we go. Stand falls apart, forgive me. Sorry about the mess up for everything. And then I have to get a track of audio on the other one too. Which he did. I apologize for this, for everything falling apart. But this next one is actually a piece from a show that I did at, like you are interested, at the Osmic Expo Center in the end of 2016. And this piece is called Original Snowbirds. I'd like to tell you a story about a bird. It's fair to say that this is the original snowbird. In Hawaii, the kalea is the Pacific golden plover. These foraging birds hang out in Hawaii until it is spring, where they are fattened up for their over 2,500-mile nonstop flight to Alaska. They have no waterproofing for their feathers, so they don't rest, but fly for 3 days straight. And fossils found in Oahu even reveal the plovers have done this for 120,000 years. Because in the spring, they fly up north, and these birds spend 3 months in Alaska. They reclaim last year's breeding grounds and incubate eggs, hatching 25 days later. Mama and Daddy bird then leave the nest just after the last chick hatches. And predators like foxes, jaegers, and caribou force the chicks to leave the nest, and in barely a month, the chickens then can actually fly come August. And this is when the parents then leave. Now adult plovers eat like mad, gain 50% of their body fat, so they have fuel for their 3-day flight over 2,000 miles to their Hawaiian home. Yeah, you heard me right. Every spring, these Pacific golden plovers, after bulking up, make a 3-day non-stop flight up north and lose 50% of their body mass doing it. And right after the babies are about ready to fly, they've bulked up enough to want for once more being able to leave their babies to fend for themselves. Because these little birds can't actually make the flight. They haven't had the bulk to make that trip, and they've never even learned how to navigate. With Alaska summers, they've never actually seen the stars or any night sky at all until they fly south. Maybe baby plovers use Earth's magnetic field because it's a miracle when they do reach Hawaii. But I've been told that when they return, they arrive in Hawaii at the exact same spot, year after year for up to 20 years, and annually are welcomed by the natives. We think we understand the seasons, but in Hawaii, they mark the seasons by the coming and going of the kalea, the Hawaiian word that mimics the sounds of the Pacific golden plovers, the parents and their babies, because they truly mark the passage of time. Thank you. And sorry for the difficulty earlier, but while I've got these bird sounds going on, I might as well share with you a piece from the Ultimate Connectivity show. You heard one earlier, but this one is Ultimate Connectivity, A Bird in the Hand. After a night camping at Bryce National Canyon, there was snow on the ground, but my sleeping bag zipper wasn't broken. I got out of my tent in the morning, and a few little birds fluttered by. Now, one seemed to hang out a little too close, so I put some grain on the palm of my hand, stretched out my forearm, and remained perfectly still. Almost on cue. Less than 2 minutes later, the bird landed on the palm of my hand and enjoyed the bounty that I gave them. And suddenly I felt like I was Mother Earth, and I could stretch out my arms like a scarecrow, but this time the animals wouldn't be afraid. And with my outstretched arms, I would give them food and shelter and love. And maybe that's when I twitched my finger, or else I was out of food. But the next thing I knew was my 3-inch little bird took a step or two along my palm and up my fingers before it flew away. Thank you. Close that one up for you. This next one has nothing to do with birds. This one, for April, where it was National Poetry Month, I had a feature, and I decided to do a feature of a bunch of erasure poems. And for those who don't know what an erasure poem is, you take a well-known document or speech or text from something, and you block out some of the words to create something new. And what I did, one of the pieces I did was a poem from Sri Sri from Telugu, from India, who had a statue there when I visited that said modern poetry is his forte. I took one of his poems that I had a translation of, and I pulled things out of it, and I came up with this poem that is called Erasure Poem, A Poetic History. History, proud of exploitation of others. History, an exercise in mutual destruction. History, drenched in the blood of war. History, made slaves of the meek. Murderers climbed to glory. Entire past is wet with blood, if not with tears. Decimated populations echo history. Connivances, jealousies, conflicts prove the course of history. Grand murderers and thugs built a bridge of swords to time. Artificial laws with other forces fell down like houses of cards. The deception, the heinous crimes of the mighty, the schemes can't be allowed. Exploitation of one person by another, one race by a different race can't go on. All the downtrodden peoples, the different races of all continents will broadcast in one voice the true nature of history. Which battle took place? Which kingdom lasted how long? The dates, the documents, these are not the essence. Stories hidden under the dark corners of history are wanted. Truth won't hide by being hidden. In the twilights of history, what was the development of the human? What achieved grand truth? Which sculptures? Which literature? Which science? Which music? Which renunciation? Which dream? Grab a book because this poem is called Just One Book. It's not about this book, but it may as well be because it could be as spiritually moving as the book might in this poem is. This poem I've got here for you was for a show about love, and that could be love of a spiritual love or the love of family or whatnot. And this is a piece I wrote for it. It's called Just One Book. I wore my older sister's communion veil, playing dress-up in my imaginary wedding. I read my older sister's prayer book, wondering who can hand me my answers. But mangled in a maelstrom of religions, I was left lost, searching for salvation. After years ticked by, it was only then when my Judeo-Christian boyfriend gave me a book. It didn't quite fit in with his beliefs, but he told me to give it a read. Now, I remember reading books where I'd have to tell myself to read 50 pages a day, so that I could get through it. But after reading any pages, I actually honestly couldn't even tell you what I had just read. But this book was like no other. It spoke to me philosophically, and it managed to show me how to live. You didn't think you'd get it so much from just one book, and it's true. Afterward, I swooped up as much reading as I could on the subject, but it still stuns me that just one book could put me on a track to how to think through life, because suddenly all my reasoning made sense. With this one book, I learned how to fit all of the pieces together, and suddenly my life made sense. I didn't think just one book could do that to a person, but I'm a living testament to the message, like I'm placing my hand on a Bible. I'll swear to this day that just the right book, in just the right hands, of just the right minds, can really give the world clarity and transform everything perfectly. This is not about a book, but it's about newspapers. And this wasn't in a show. This would have been in my Janet Poems book. That's not the show poems. This poem is called Newspaper Inks, the Blood of a Dying Species. Sitting in those basement labs, the hum of the computer workstations accompanying my thoughts. Time was ticking, deadlines darted, but I was used to the daily deadline. The rush to be on time was my nicotine. I'd slam my hands, my fingers into those keyboards so that every newspaper would know my side of the story. I would keep copies of my work in 9-point type, 2-inch wide columns, but newspaper is pages. Those pages are as thin as tissue. I can't hold my work in this form forever, not like this. The ink smudges and disappears when everyone touches a page. Maybe this is the disintegration of the written word, now that everyone prefers reading their news from their phones and their tablets. Besides, people want to read on their commuter train to work. The newspaper ink could smudge into their crisp, white shirts. Journalism is a dying art. Millenniums think that if you use a smartphone and text what anyone blurts out and that must be news, well, they just post their nonsense on every electronic medium they can find. Besides, with the prices that they pay for their phones so that they can Google every question they have and not have to actually retain any answers, texting and data better be free. Not like those newspapers, and not the tabloid ones, but the ones that you have to open and spread out your arms to read. You know.
God forbid.
The cumbersome ones. Yeah. Because those are the ones that make you feel like you actually have something worth saying, because it's something of value. This is what I loved. I love being able to make a statement on a printed page and have it delivered to the town's front doors. I'd open my front door and open my daily paper just like everyone delivered to everyone else on all their front doors, and open the pages wide and then find what's mine. Why bother remembering stories or the news when you can just reference it on archives online? Well, you may be right, and it may seem convenient, but it's inconvenient to search for the stories in the first place. And anyway, I still contend that it's better for your eyes and maybe your brain, because you can retain information on a page more easily. I know, the newspaper's a dying species. It's a dying art. But the oils, the pigments that make the ink, they make our blood. Understand this. And if you ever grab a newspaper again, if any ink smudges onto your fingers, well, rub it in. Get it into your bones. Because this stuff is in our blood, and it gives us life. Thanks. People think I'm such a realist, and I am. But I decided to write about things that are imaginary for the next two pieces. This one's called Elusive Imaginary Creatures. So I've got this friend who has this problem, and they don't know if they should see a doctor. So my friend thinks her husband is cheating on her. Oh, what should she do? So I've got this friend who wants to kill their boss, but they don't know if they should do it because they don't want to get fired, so they don't know what to do. We've all heard these stories before, and we probably all used that line before too, saying, I've got this friend, when you're really actually talking about yourself. This elusive imaginary creature is it's from a line we've all used because we're all too afraid to say that we've got a problem, that we're too afraid to share. And think about it. What if this elusive imaginary creature was real and had all these problems we ascribe just to get advice? Horrible job, cheating spouses, mounting debt, backstabbing friend, a lump under the skin. They'd be a basket case. So why do we do it? Why do we share problems in the third person to get some assistance instead of asking for a hand? Well, I know we all think that we're all tough as nails and we've got it all under control. So maybe we do this because we create this persona, because we don't want to shadow this image we created to the rest of the world. We've created this card house, this delicate card house, and we don't want to see it fall down. So we say, I've got this friend. We create this elusive imaginary creature because look at our lives. Look at what we've made. We surely don't want to shatter this image we've created for us or for the rest of the world. Texas really liked this one about imagination. This piece is called Your Imaginary Soul Weighs 21 grams. Different cultures call it different things. your spirit, your soul. I know that we creatively believe that there's something special we possess. But this elusive imaginary creature that lives within us causes much debate. Does it even exist? Is the soul real? So I found it funny that a doctor 100 years ago wanted to measure the weight of a soul. He found people that were sick and dying, and he weighed them just before they were about to die. And then he weighed their corpses right after death. And what do you know? There was a difference in each person. The doctors found that each person was less than an ounce lighter, or actually about 21 grams. And this doesn't prove anything, but it makes me wonder, is 21 ounces the weight we carry for our soul? Or do some souls carry more from the weights of the world? Is this why we're forced to share our stories, to lift our burden, so our invisible soul won't weigh us down anymore? I was thrilled to be able to perform this with a live improv jazz band in March of this year. And this piece is called Yearning to Break Free. I asked a guitarist once why he's always breaking into song. He told me that he had to fill his head with music, or else a billion ideas would overflow his brain, and he wouldn't be able to focus on anything. I thought about this. And I wondered if this is the hope of the creator. That we're bombarded with all these ideas. They attack us. They assault us. They bombard us. They infect our brains. And then every once in a while, we let one crystallize. We give our scattered minutiae a form, and you call it a work of art. But you don't understand. If I had let it all out, my brain would explode. I suppose these are the trials of the creative, with all these ideas scratching at our brains, yearning to break free. And us creative types, we're left to pick and choose from what deep within us is worth sharing with the rest of the world. You call it a work of art. I call it what keeps me sane. Thank you very much. I have one more for you, and I had a couple of you in mind. One, I wanted to end on a happier note for this ending piece. This piece is called Just by Holding His Hand, an extreme 2016 Sestina variation. And when we're walking down the street in stride, and our feet pump out the same rhythm, and our shoulders are almost touching, and our hands seem to brush up against and along each other for one brief moment. And in that brief moment, our hands almost touch, and he reaches over and he takes my hand, he slides his fingers around my hand, and I feel him move along my palm to my fingers. And he moves along my palm to my fingers. No one knows what it feels like then, when his fingers curl and hold me tight. Well, they feel like pop rocks. You know when it feels like pop rocks, that candy is sliding down your throat after you let it explode on your tongue, and it's tingling. Oh, you know that feeling. And no one else is eating those pop rocks, and no one knows that tingling feeling, and this is your little secret. And I love keeping this little secret when I feel this feeling like never before, and it makes me want to laugh and cry, because no one, when I look around that room, no one is eating those pop rocks, and no one knows the feeling when he's holding my hand. No one knows the feeling when he's holding my hand. It's like candy and cupids and hearts and sunshine and all of those generic symbols of love that never explain it just right. Words can never explain it just right. It's catching your breath, falling from an airplane. It's climbing a mountain. It's standing on a glacier. It's following dolphins. It's swimming with sharks. It's turning your head and seeing those fingers interlocked with yours as you're walking in stride. Because then and there, walking in stride, you think of those pop rocks tingling down your throat, and now this feeling hits all of your nerves, because pop rocks never felt like this. And now nothing has ever felt like this, and it's in all of your muscles and all of your nerves, and now you want to hold on for your life. Now you feel something you've never felt before, all just by holding his hand. Thank you all so very much. As I said, I've got two new books, and they have new poems, and those things, select pieces of both of those books are available. Both of those books are only $10 each. There are things from shows and from non-shows. Proof copies, I'd be glad to sign anything if anyone's interested. I'm right there, and I'm running so late, and I thank you all so very much for this wonderful time.